Yeah. First of all, thank you for an extremely cogent presentation and analysis, which both informed and enlightened me. I want to put three quick questions to you. First of all, it was not clear to me whether you were conflating the rule of law and the existence of a democracy. When you spoke, for example, about the Roman Republic, you pointed out that it was not a democracy, but you also referred to the device of a justitium, by which the rule of law is suspended. And I thought that you were saying or implying that one could have the rule of law, but without in the absence of a democracy, although it may be questionable whether one can speak of the existence of a democracy without the existence of the rule of law. So I wanted to ask whether the two are related or the two are identical, in your view. Secondly, I have to tell you, I have a major problem with the identification of the words of the Declaration of Independence, the American Declaration of Independence, as being the basic reference point for a democracy, as a definition of democracy, as you said. Because as we all know, the democracy of which they spoke was one which excluded a large section of the population which was enslaved, another large section of the population which was female, and another large section of the population which was indigenous. So it seems to me one must speak to context, and if you are to revise the definition to take this into account, then it seems to me you're going beyond the U.S. Declaration of Independence as your definition. The third question, however, is the fundamental one which you posed. And let me go back by quoting your quotation of what the Chief Justice said and your interpretation, which is that it was possible for the state of emergency to be legal but not to be legitimate, to be constitutional but not to be legitimate. Now, it seems to me, first of all, that if this is the case and if this is what you're arguing, you're really arguing against the Constitution or the provisions of the Constitution insofar as they permit the suspension of the normal democratic rights. So one therefore has to address, it seems to me, the constitutional provisions and what they provide and do not provide for. The question, it seems to me, as to whether one can suspend democratic rights, albeit temporarily, and still remain a democracy, which is, it seems to be the fundamental issue that you posed. The answer that I would give to it, in my simple way of looking at these things, is that it may in fact be possible to have the suspension of democratic rights, but the preservation of a democracy, if democratic means of ending the state of emergency actually exist. That is to say, one could only argue that the democracy no longer exists if there was a situation where the government could indefinitely prolong and extend the state of emergency without reference either to law or to the will of the governed. That may indeed be possible. But that, it seems to me, one would only be able to answer by reference to the law and also the culture of governance that exists. We did have a situation like that in the English-speaking Caribbean, if my memory serves me right, whereby Forbes Burnham ruled for many, many years under a state of emergency to the point where it simply became a normal functioning of the system. And then, of course, he used fraudulent means to preserve himself in power. Is that possible in Trinidad and Tobago? It may be the case that one could only answer that question after the event. Or it may be the case that one could argue, as you seem to be arguing, even before the event. But it would boil down in my thinking, A, to the law, what does the Constitution permit, and B, what does the culture of governance and politics in the society permit? Thank you.